Sebastian? Okay. Hello, everyone. This is 12:15. We talk about the latest news in camera, housing, all things around it, a little bit of optics, housings and stuff like that. We had already Easy Dive, Hugifoot, Isoda, C-Cam here, and today we're here with Nauticam, who were not only, generous enough to give us housings to give away, but they also have a few interesting innovations that they can show us today. But I think we start a little bit with where everything started and is coming from. And therefore we're very honored to have that. A very rare person to be seen somewhere in the spotlight is Edward Lai, the founder of Nauticam, and Ryan, Nauticam US, also a very rare animal in the spotlight. So I hope that doesn't make you feel too uncomfortable today.
We're honored to
See,
be
guys,
here.
that's the exact reaction. Okay, so Edward,
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about how did all of this actually start?
Okay. Hello, everybody. Guten Tag.
Hey.
Around the year 2005, I was still in the mobile phone business. I don't know whether you still remember all those old phones, the Nokia, on the Ericsson, millions and millions of plastic parts. And I was in the industry, very competitive. I didn't enjoy it. So I was thinking, what is next for myself? And at that time, I was also doing some underwater photography. Like many people, when I don't get a good picture, I always complain about the camera and housing. So I said, this housing is not good. I'm going to make a better one. And one day I decided probably I should really seriously think about that. And then I prepare slowly to get into the underwater housing business. At that time, I was quite not happy with the housings that I can buy. So I was thinking about I should make it more user-friendly, more economical, easy to use, easy to set up. Do you agree with me, Ryan?
Well, what Edward did before this was making molds for plastic parts. So he would work for a company like Nokia, make a molded enclosure, and then ship the part off away to be manufactured. This means you had machines to create molds, molding machines to run test parts, and a ton of technical knowledge that this industry didn't have access to before. So Nauticam is inherited all of that experience, and it goes into making the molded handles that are rubberized, all of the small molded parts on the inside, which is this insane competitive advantage. If someone wants to make a mold, it's like 100,000 euros or something like that, which people in this industry prior to Nauticam couldn't always justify. So we actually inherited a really unique competitive advantage from this experience in the past.
No, I see. But it's like what is unique to me from is that it's not only about the housings, but it's also about the optics, about lenses and optical things. Like how did that come along? Like, do you just not satisfied with the picture quality you can get, and you thought, I need to make something about it? And I believe it's not easy to get into that field and to produce like products like that.
That is like the second stage of our business. So the first several years, we were quite concentrated in the mechanical design. I still remember meeting Alex Masta in Milan. He was telling me, hey, your housings are really, really good. But what's next? Now the society is not quite happy with the optical performance of the lenses. Maybe you can do something. And at that time, I also took quite a lot of macro pictures. I also find that actually I don't get the quality I expect. So I start to research about any possibility that we can do optics. And at that time, I only have very basic knowledge of lenses I got from my secondary school. So simple magnifying glass, 1 over f prime equal to 1 over f prime 2. That's all the basics I had at the time. So I do a lot of research myself. I went onto internet to find more information. I got to know some books, so I purchased the books online, and then I gathered that much of book, and I ran through quite a lot of the books. I think you remember seeing all those books on my shelf.
Yeah.
And then at one point, I think I can do that with software. So I also research on software, and eventually I select my software and I start to go through some training course to learn that.
We spent like the first 8 years of Nauticam trying to make the underwater camera housing easy to use. Just keep it from getting in the way of the experience, make it this seamless interface between the camera and the photographer. We worked really hard at that. Lots of cool stuff came from it. The port mount, the locking latches on the back of the housing make it super easy to get the camera in and out. The no control needs to be preset on most models, so you just drop them in. But all of that work, it didn't make anybody take a better picture. The only way we could create or help our users create better images was just to give them better lenses to shoot.
Mm-hmm. Are you happy now with what you did? I mean, this is the new wide-angle converter port.
Yeah.
2. Is it like the end quality level that you can use? Because I remember I was talking to Ryan. He said it's just like, I mean, we can, it's always like for how much money you can sell something like this. It's very unique to be able to produce something like this. Like, what are we looking at right now?
To be honest, for me, this is really not for the money, not for the profit. Actually, invest quite a lot into developing this product. For me, it is like the pursuit for the ultimate optical quality, helping people like you to get the ultimate quality in the field. For example, with the new lens, you can use a more wide open aperture, so that it opens up the possibility to shoot in darker environment. You have anything to add?
It never will end. You're never going to be done. Every lens design teaches you something new. It's applied in the next lens design. These are both stunning optics. They're big, they're heavy, Future, you'll look at trying to size them down. Other ways to cut some weight and size.
Let's have a look a little bit, in the specifics. You brought a few slides and pictures. Should we run them
let's do it.
slowly? And you can explain a little bit what we actually see there.
This is SMC if you want to talk about that. Okay, so the first lens design that we did was a macro conversion. So there have always been wet mate macros that go on the front of a DSLR macro lens and allow you to get a little bit closer and increase the magnification of the image. You didn't get something for nothing. You definitely, with all of the lenses that existed prior to this, gave up some image quality. And most notably, you would see it in purple fringing at the extreme edges. So SMC, we didn't bring one up here, but that is a macro lens that is super clean. So it's strong. With a normal 100 millimeter macro, it gets you to like 2-to-1 reproduction ratio, twice life size. And it does so without giving up any image quality. It's crazy, but it's actually sharper to take a picture with the SMC in front of a 105 lens underwater than it is to take a picture with just the 105 lens behind a flat port in water. In the old days, we used to say, don't use the macro lens unless you have to. Now, that doesn't really apply anymore, because as soon as you attach it to the camera, the image quality takes a step up.
Are you working all of this out like according to a specific lens? Or is it something that you can use on any lens?
Well, to start with, I really have a target. So when I design this lens, I have a expectation to use with the 100 macro lens on a full frame camera. And after that, we will test with different combinations. And then we also, of course, find that even a compact camera can use this lens. And then we just issue all these possibilities on our company port chart.
Okay.
But the design starts with a model of the lens, and Nikon and Canon, they don't give them to us. So you kind of have to guess. So the first step in designing a lens like this is to try to redesign the camera lens based on what information is available on the internet and we can find through testing, and then create all of the elements in front of it to create the in-water conversion.
Stupid question. You can't just buy the lens? Like, what do you mean by recreate the lens?
Inside the software, you can design anything you want. So the first thing I design inside the software is I design a micro lens. So that micro lens belongs to me. I design the lens. But the angle of view, the aperture, the focus distance is almost the same as a real lens. So I have to compare the performance of a real lens with my model inside the software to make sure that I have more or less the same lens that is on the market. And then I design my optics in front of it with water between the pot and the back of the lens, and water between the front of the lens and the subject.
I see.
You can buy a lens and tear it apart, but that really doesn't get you anywhere because there are hundreds of optical glasses that each individual element could be made of. So take it apart and measure it, but that doesn't tell you really anything about the lens without knowing what glass each element is made of.
Okay, interesting.
Maybe a little bit addition. So after we finish the design, we have to send the formula to some glass element manufacturer. They make these elements according to our formula, to the radius, to the thickness, to the type of glass we want. And then we would have these elements back to the factory. We build the casing for it, and then we have our testing equipment built for making all these lenses. We have special environment that we can test the lens underwater, and we also have measuring charts that we can measure the performance of the lens using a software. Today the software is quite well known. All the mobile phone manufacturers, they use that particular software to test the phone cameras. It's called EMWL-1. So we can get some quantitative number from the measurement to prove the lens is working. So it is not saying, oh, I feel this is a good lens, or whether you think it is good. It is by numbers. It is a quantitative analysis of the lens.
Okay.
That real analysis is extremely important because it's hard to sometimes see how much better or worse a design is by eye. Like what I said earlier about the 105 macro, everybody in this room that used that lens for forever thought it was great. It was sharper than the 105 that came before it. We didn't really know until we got some numbers back that showed how poor it was performing and how much better it is with SMC. But unfortunately, it's one of those things that once you see it, you can't unsee it. Now, once we know what we're looking for, it's like every shot that wasn't used with the lens, you can identify that it's not as sharp as it could have been.
Interesting. What are you seeing here?
Yeah, that's the 105 on its own, no conversion lens.
Just the normal one without anything on it?
Yeah, behind a flat port underwater with a Nauticam. Yeah.
Okay, and then
we had SMC, the first lens that Nauticam made.
this is not a crop in.
Not a crop. Greater than 2:1 magnification, sharper than the shot that came before it. Twice as big, yeah.
This is still using the full sensor.
Yeah, this is probably a Canon 5DS or full frame digital SLR.
Okay. Wow.
And then next is SMC-2, which was a lens designed for DSLR people to give even more magnification, the crazy macro photographers. And this provides up to 4:1 reproduction. Really nuts. And it's really clean. Like, the edges aren't actually in focus, but if you have something in focus on the edges, you can pixel peep all you want. There's no purple fringe there.
Yeah.
Not a crop in, just a magnification of
4
the shot.
times life size, yeah. So
Yeah.
this is all 3 images together to compare.
Ah, okay. SMC1 and SMC2 and
Yeah,
the
so-
original photograph.
All of that extra magnification without paying an image quality penalty. That's what's really cool about that design.
Absolutely. Okay.
This is a punch-in of the extreme corners with something in focus just to show how clean they are with very little to no purple fringing.
Okay. What are we looking at here?
Another SMC1
This
pretty
is
picture.
another
Yeah,
image from the SMC1.
correct, yes.
Good. Now, that probably looks familiar to everyone here, right? No? What are we actually seeing here?
There are always people asking me, we have been using dome pot for many years. How can you prove to me that the glass dome pot is not good? So I spent maybe a week trying to use my software to really find out the problem of a dome pot. So this, excuse me. So these are the points we can measure from the sensor surface. Basically, if these points are really small, you have a good quality, and if these points are big, that means you have some blur. It is not good. So this is a lens. I find in a library. So I just put the lens there, and then this is the performance of the lens on land in air. And then I try to build a dome pot in front of it and put it in water. So in the next slide, you can see that these numbers become much bigger, especially the corner is much worse. That's why you have a very bad image when you shoot a lens behind a dome pot in water, because the ponds become much bigger. We call this the spot diagram. So the spots are not as good as the original lens on land. Same lens behind a dome pot in the water.
Ah, I see.
You want a really tight bundle. The spots should be close together, and that's a sharp image. But what happens with the dome is it basically just tears the different wavelengths of light and makes them strike the sensor at different places, so you lose focus. And,
okay.
and there's nothing you can do. It's a really simple element, just one single element. It's been used forever because it's relatively easy to produce, but it's image quality not what we need.
And the resolution is, in the end, a wet lens design, or what is the way to get around that?
So in the wide-angle lenses that we've built, we build wide-angle conversion and in-water correction. So the lens is actually doing 2 things. First, it's making the lens behind it, mounted to the camera, wider to make it more appropriate for underwater photography. And then second, it's correcting it to be sharp in water, and using multiple elements and lots of testing and trial and error and theoretical knowledge and special glasses. It's doing way more than a single element dome could ever do.
I think we can have a look at an example about the corner sharpness of these lenses that you brought. I guess this is in the Cayman Islands.
Yeah, it's just a normal Stingray, but if this is shot, I think at f5.6.
This is shot at 5.6.
Yeah, and it's a Nikon Z7 with a 14 to 30 lens, which when used with this results in a 140 degree field of view. There's no rectilinear wide-angle lens used in air that gets you that wide. So this is wider than anything we've used before and sharper in the corners when pretty much wide open.
Great. Yeah. Whole image. Going further in. So corner sharpness. is the key. With open aperture like 5.6.
Yeah, so somebody can shoot in the dark, right? Orcas in Norway, inside of Rex. It's a huge advantage not to have to hold f8 or f11 like some other lenses require that you do. So.
Okay. You have to walk me through a little bit. I think the next one we see here.
This is a really, actually, do you want to introduce the concept?
Okay. Maybe, yeah.
I'll be the hand model.
What are we looking at there? A lot of people always ask me, what is this kind of elephant trunk?
Some people have a dream. If I just take one camera and one lens in the water, can I take macro, super macro, wide angle, close focus wide angle in one dive? And this is the solution. We can take a camera with a micro lens inside. Of course, you can put all the SMC S1, SMC2 to do crazy super macro. And then you can put this lens in front and it become a wide angle lens. And you can do a close focus wide angle, just like this. This is one of our objectives that provide 130-degree field of view. And then this one. And we have other objectives that have different angle of view. So you can change this in the water. You can, you can have all kinds of selections in the water. I think the next picture is the one with the 100 mm lens.
That one.
Always the same, within the same setup system that you can...
And then the next one is change from 100 degrees to 60-something degrees. That's also capable of 2:1 macro.
This one.
Yeah.
In one dive with different accessories.
And you can
on
go
it.
further, take the whole thing off.
Wait a second. Sebastian, I think he's a little bit low. Can you raise him up a little bit? No? Is okay? Because I barely understand you.
You can go further and take the whole thing off, and then put the SMC in front of the 100 macro, and you're shooting traditional super macro.
And all the last 3 pictures were taken with the autofocus function of the lens on the camera. So it's autofocus. You don't need to do the manual focus.
Ah, okay.
This is a perspective tool. It's not inexpensive. It's a lot to handle in the water, right? But what this does is allows you to get either on eye level or even below this tiny subject and then look at it, like some people call these bug eye lenses. So imagine you're a little bug looking up at the world. This style of lens has been really popular in natural history productions because you can move the camera through the world. Like if you have a sea fan and an anemone and then a sponge and there's a little critter on the sponge, you can walk past the sea fan, walk past the anemone, and then walk right up to the critter on the sponge using a slider of shooting video.
I see. Okay.
This one may be one of the smallest diameter 100-degree wide angle lens in the whole world. It's just like 19 mm diameter when 100-degree field of view.
Wow.
So it's like a centimeter from the subject in the top right.
Yeah.
Really, really close.
Good. Thanks a lot.
Pleasure.
Housing and optics. How much is something like this?
We're going to sell this around $3,000 for the focus unit, the relay, and then the 100-degree lens. And then you can buy the macro accessory as an additional item, or you can buy the ultra-wide lens as an additional item. And maybe there are different lenses to come. Who knows? Fisheye or something like that.
And what about the WACP-2?
About $7,000, yeah.
$7,000.
You can see Florian smile.
I'm
He's
really
already
looking
excited.
forward to test it, to be honest.
How many hours of design went into this product, though?
Took me 1.5 years.
Yeah.
1.5 years.
Yeah.
Millions of computer calculations. Lens design is what if modeling. It's not like you go to Google Maps and say, I want a perfect wide-angle lens. You have to input a value for what each individual element should be doing, and then the software just optimizes it. So it's really a more manual process than a lot of modeling in a computer is.
Actually, I changed my idea twice. So in the beginning, I was looking forward to design a lens that I mount onto the camera. And then when the design was almost done, I was thinking, what about people ask for the solution for another sensor size? If I design the lens for full frame, then people, if people put it on micro four thirds, it's half of the angle. So I thought maybe I should design the lens in front of a full system. That means a camera with a lens. Okay, and that it was done. I took the lens to the dimmer show, and after dimmer show, suddenly I have another idea. What about if I can change all these parts interchangeable in the water? It will be more fun that people can change the objective to achieve different result right in the water. So I abandoned everything, designed the whole thing again. I was quite happy that I did that, and now I have a system that is fully interchangeable in the water.
Bringing so many different perspectives to the photographer, same subject, same dive, and works with basically every camera as well.
Great. And if you guys don't know, we are lucky enough to give away housing for the compact camera, which is, I always struggle with the name and the numbers, the Canon
G5X Mark II.
G5X Mark II, and the new ZCam. It's also a new thing. If you happen to be here at the show, the booth is, what's the booth number?
I don't know, over there.
Just behind, or in front of the Pixel World stage. The guys will be there. And I hope it's okay that I announce that we have you also taking a look in the comments of this live stream. So if you always wanted to ask Edward Lai or Ryan Cannon a question, sorry guys,
No, please
ask
do.
it there, and then they have a look at it and answer it directly.
Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we make a short break, and we will be back talking about cold water diving in Antarctica and how everything came along. How did it actually happen that you go on an expedition, it takes 6 weeks, and you happen to be on location for only 10 days? Great. And what Greg was able to manage to photograph in the 10 days. And a little bit of video is also in there, so I think we have a good time. Hamdan will doing the interview. Great. So break for half an hour. No. 1 hour, a little bit more than 1 hour, 2 o'clock. We're going to be back here in the live stream. Thanks,
Amazing.
everybody.
Thank you. This is amazing.